Willkommen, bienvenue. Yes, that was super dramatic music. But in a way, this whole podcast today is all about let's not react to the super drama that seems to be enveloping around. Let's not react too quickly. And I think I'm very pleased to say that Stephanie Mitchel Hughes, which I'm sure you'll recognize, who has spent rather too much time within the legal system, will be able to explain to you why we shouldn't be overreacting when a certain gentleman signs off a load of things with a Sharpie. That doesn't mean they instantly become law, or that existing laws instantly blink out into the void. Please explain in words of one syllable, Stephanie, why that isn't the case.
Okay, so I'm going to try to the best of my ability. So one of the things that, and you know this, it has really been a very tough period to observe in the United States.
Very hard watch, especially for us as well, because we know that if America gets a cold, we'll catch a fever. So we're watching this with eagle eyes.
So the thing that I have wanted to say, come on here and say all week, is tell people, stop. Let's just take a deep breath. Have a seat. And the best analogy is in The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy and her crew come back to the wizard, and they all of a sudden, behind the curtain, they see a man, and the man behind the curtain, and the voice of the wizard says not to pay attention to that man. And so the thing that I would say to people is we got to, stop, take a deep breath,
right,
and don't continue to drink and eat a steady diet of all of the seeming chaos and confusion that is going on around us.
Right.
We can't do that. And to stop doing that, because number one, your anxiety level goes up. It affects your mental health and your own well-being. You have to protect your own peace. And the other thing is, and I don't know about other people, but when I'm extremely stressed out and I'm anxious about a lot of things, I don't always react. I may overreact to some of the simplest and most straightforward things. So I've just wanted to say to people, like, don't react. Don't get caught up in what's happening. Should you be concerned? Absolutely, you should be concerned. Am I concerned? Absolutely, I am concerned. I keep an eye on the man behind the curtain, but I'm not going to be sucked up by the man behind the curtain, because people sometimes want you to look at the man behind the curtain so that you're not paying attention to what's really happening, so that you kind of may decide, you know what, this is a lost cause. I'm just going to give up and sit down and not try to continue to make a contribution to the conversations that we are allowed to have in the United States, because we are a democracy and because we have a constitution. Now, having said all of that, I'm going to shift on to these executive orders. Now, earlier this week, we might have seen a person, the president, signing a whole lot of executive orders.
Right.
And we really don't teach civics so much in this country anymore, so we'll just do a little bit of a civics lesson.
Okay.
An executive order does not necessarily a law make. We have three branches of government.
Right.
We have a Congress who legislates. We may disagree with legislation that Congress passes. We have representatives who we vote on. They go there, they pass laws. and what have you. We have a court system, and the court's job is to interpret the laws. And from those interpretations, we may have what is known as case law and legal precedents that are developed. Then we have the executive branch, which is where the president of the United States, he's the head of the executive branch. There are federal departments, and they create policies and rules that govern the business of the American people. Those laws, the rules that various federal agencies establish, the regulations, those things can be also interpreted by different parts of the court system. So just to give you an example, let's start with something that's a concrete example. Earlier this week, as part of one of the laws, or the executive orders, that was passed, that was signed, revoked an earlier executive order that was issued by Lyndon B. Johnson.
Right.
Now, that particular then President Lyndon B. Johnson, now that particular executive order he signed it to clarify and also to extend certain equal employment opportunities within the federal government system. The signing of that executive order revoking Lyndon B. Johnson's earlier executive order does not mean that the laws, the various statutes that were passed, some of them back in the late 1800s, those laws were not overturned.
Right.
The EEO laws, statutes like Title VII, like the Voting Rights Act of 1965, all of the various federal statutes that were passed, and all of it, the years and years of case law that is associated with it, those things were not revoked. The President of the United States does not have the ability and the authority to overturn laws. And that, just like he does not have the ability or the authority to legislate, that is Congress's job. So that's what I mean when I say stop and take a deep breath. And I think the other thing that we have to do, I think this is incredibly important, is do your due diligence, meaning do some research and find out what these things actually mean. What does it mean? And I think that if you stop and you take a deep breath and you go do your due diligence, you will then understand that certain things may have one level of significance,
Right.
but it does not mean that your entire life has been upended.
But in simple terms, just because a man in a blonde toupee decides to sign with a Sharpie on a piece of paper doesn't suddenly become into law. It has to go through the two other
There's other branches. There are branches that have.
So it has to go through the legal side. And what's the legal side called?
The Congress. Congress they are the entity that legislates.
Right.
Now, as part of
and also the judicial system.
Right. But the executive branch essentially is the branch of government that handles what is the business of the American people. So you have entities, departments like the IRS,
right,
like the Department of Labor, those are rule making bodies. Those, they make rules, and those rules are interpreted, and those rule people can sue based upon some of these rules, and if, in terms of their applicability and all, or their validity or what have you. But
Mhm.
my point is that there is a whole process, and that process is not just upended because someone signs an executive order. It just doesn't quite, it's not that simple, and it doesn't work that way. And quite frankly, I don't think that it should. I think that we have to have a system of checks and balances.
Right.
But most importantly, for this and for the period that we are in now, just, take some steps back, get off of social media, and just do some other kinds of things. And if you want to learn more, there are people now, because they have been so alarmed by a lot of the chaos and a lot of the angst that other people have been feeling and expressing, that they've started just teaching some basic civics classes, some history lessons on some of these topics.
Americans could do, it has to be
I
said,
mean,
with
yeah, well, but
good history lessons, I think.
exact, understand, know your history, know the way that your government can work, because if you have that information, you're equipped, and you then also know how to respond to situations when they come up. We've got people are extremely, and again, I understand, I am concerned about the specter of mass deportation. But when you hear that, people hear that, and you think, well, are they going to come and just pick me up if I'm on the street? Well, what's going to happen? Well, what am I supposed to do? So you've got people who have run into hiding. There was a raid, an ICE raid that supposedly took place, an alleged ICE raid that took place. Is it in, it's
immigration?
Yeah, it's an immigration. Sorry, I'm brain fog. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
It's no, because immigration customs enforcement. I think that's what it's called.
So they're the strong arm of the, we would call it the home office here, but yeah.
Yeah, they would be part, I believe they're part of the Department of Homeland Security.
There we go.
And so we've got there was allegedly an ICE raid that took place in New Jersey. I believe this might have been yesterday or maybe even the day before. And in that raid, again, allegedly, because I haven't confirmed any of this, I just read about it. There was a person who was an American citizen who was picked up. Well, when you hear their mass deportations, it's going to strike the fear, tremendous fear and anxiety. Whether or not people should be in the United States, who should be there, what immigration policy should be, and all of that, that kind of thing is just like, I'm not here to argue any of that. All I'm saying is, don't be racked with, do not let fear and concern paralyze you. Don't let it happen, because when it paralyzes you, you cannot do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself. And one of the things that you do in situations like that to take care of yourself is, again, do your research, do your homework, understand what the federal government can and cannot do, should or should not do. Yes, have the court, specifically the Supreme Court, really eroded our basic rights under the Bill of Rights, the search and seizure, confrontation, the right to counsel and to confront witnesses. That's Amendment 6. You've got the Fifth Amendment. Yes, those things have been eroded. I've watched that as a lawyer happen over the years, but those things are still intact.
They're still
intact. You can't. There's someone who a lawmaker, a federal lawmaker, who proposed a federal constitutional amendment. And that kind of stuff gets big headlines. And because we're in social media, everybody's like, oh my goodness, this is going to happen. Are you kidding? No. Do you realize how complicated and challenging it is to get a constitutional amendment passed? Just go and look at how hard it was for women to get for the 19th Amendment that get women's suffrage. Look at how long and how complicated that road was for them to get that established. And you can just look at that story and it will tell you how tough it was and how many years they spent fighting for that.
So look,
and
what I'd like you to do is summarize for me, because we need to wind this up for today. But I want you to help me calm down people who are already jumping the gun.
Right. Yeah. Yes, we're in a new administration. Yes, things are they're going to they may look different. They may feel different and all of that, all of the flurry, all of the seeming chaos and confusion that's going on. Don't be aware of the man behind the curtain causing all of the chaos and everything. Be aware, be concerned, but don't just sit and get stuck in chaos and confusion. Take a deep breath, take a few steps back, get off of, don't have to have a steady diet of social media and listening to and all of that. Take a step back and look at well-sourced, well-researched, resources, historians, etc. Read what they have written about the various rules, regulations, statutes. The thing I would strongly encourage people to do is to go to the public broadcasting system. Watch some of the episodes of The American Experience, shows like The American Experience that cover many of the issues that we are looking at right now, these rules, these laws, these processes, and just get the basic information about how our government works and arm yourself. So for me, I'm going to the movies.
Arm yourself
to the movies.
Yeah, arm yourself with information, not
right, accurate information.
Okay. Well, look, guys, as ever, Stephanie is a voice of reason, and I try and learn as I go. And I would suggest that Americans should try and learn about perhaps the creation of the Bill of Rights and the creation of the very essence of the lawmaking in your society, because it's a good read, and the fact that a Brit knows more about it than you do should worry you.
Well, and let me add this one little thing.
Our Magna Carta was the inspiration for 80% of it.
Exactly. And this is the thing, and this is something that as a lawyer and really as a citizen even, that I feel very strongly about. And when I got my license to practice law, I and lawyers all over the country, we put our hand up, and the oath that we took was to the Constitution, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That is a charge, that is a responsibility that I take seriously. I take it very, very seriously. And I guess to quote the late Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, my faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete. She said that when she was on the part of the panel, the Watergate panel. She was a member of that the committee within Congress that held the Watergate hearings. And that was part of her opening statement.
Well, I can see a bunch of people have joined, and it's a shame because I'm about to sign off. But look, guys, thank you very much. If you haven't watched it from the beginning, go back and watch it. There's a great message in there. Stephanie, thanks for being the voice of reason.
Thank you, and everybody, just take a deep breath. It's going to be fine.
We're going to get through this.
We will get through this.
Until next week, can you please keep your feet on the ground? Keep reaching for the stars, but try and look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.